The email sat in my inbox like a time bomb with a gold ribbon on it. Morgan Family Beach House Reunion. Save the date. The subject line sparkled with cheer, signed off by my older sister Vanessa, like she was hosting the event of the decade. And maybe she was for everyone except me. The tone, the emojis, the casual inside jokes scattered through the message all screamed one thing. This isn't for you, Claire. I didn't need to scroll down to know I wasn't really welcome. I'd seen this movie before on repeat for the last 5 years. But what none of them realized not yet was that they were about to collide headfirst with a version of me they never saw coming. If you're still listening, if you've ever felt like the outsider at your own family's table, like the silence around you was louder than applause for everyone else, then maybe, a bit of what I mean. If this story speaks to something in you, hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned. I've got more stories to tell. Stories about power reclamation and the long road back to your own voice. My name is Claire Morgan, and if you ask anyone in my family, I'm the disappointment. Or at least, that's what my mother Elaine never seems to let me forget. Not through direct words, she's too genteel for that. But in the silences, the raised eyebrows, the perfectly timed sighs over the dinner table, she makes her feelings crystal clear. You'd be amazed how loud silence can be when it's laced with judgment. You're not going to let it ruin your week again, are you? Tyler asked, leaning over the partition between our cubicles, his usual Starbucks in hand. His brow furrowed with concern as he noticed the screen I quickly minimized. Just another day, just another email, I replied, pasting on a smile I didn't feel. But it wasn't just another email, not to me. The family beach house wasn't just a venue. It was a container for my childhood, my memories, my longing, my quiet grief. I remembered being 12 the last summer before I became the one who didn't belong. I could still hear my mother's voice floating in from the porch. Claire, sweetheart, could you help clean up in the kitchen? While Vanessa sat cross-legged beside our dad on the back deck, nodding solemnly through his business talks, like she was already some junior partner in his firm. And Bryce, my younger brother, Bryce Champ, show the neighbors your science fair project, Dad would beam full of pride. And me, I sat alone, book in hand, always too quiet, too curious, too unremarkable in their eyes. My reading habits were dismissed as useless distractions. My ideas never quite fit into their family mold. My phone buzzed. Jenna. Let me guess, beach house drama? Bingo, I typed back. Bet you $5 Mom calls in under an hour to explain why there's no space for me this year. She didn't even make me wait. 40 minutes later, my screen lit up with Mom, Elaine Morgan, right on cue. Claire, darling, she began, her voice sweet like syrup but just as sticky, about the reunion. Let me stop you there, I said, surprising both of us with how steady my voice was. The beach house is full. Right, Vanessa's kids need their own room, or maybe Bryce's new girlfriend is allergic to fold-out couches this year. There was a pause. Not even a sharp intake of breath, just the deep kind of silence that confirms the truth before words ever do. Well, she finally replied, you know how it is. The little ones are at such a formative age. They need their routine. I glanced across my desk at the unopened envelope marked Confidential, my official promotion letter. Senior Vice President at 35, the youngest in the company's 100-year history. But yeah, Mom's sure Vanessa's twins needing nap time takes precedence. Right, I know exactly how it is, I said flatly and hung up. Afterward, I made my way to Mr. Whitfield's office. Richard, really though, I still couldn't call him that to his face. He'd been my mentor since the day I started here as an intern, and he could read me like a spreadsheet. Let me guess, he said as soon as I sat down. Family again. I nodded, sinking into the leather chair. I don't know why it still gets to me. Because you're not a robot, he replied. But you know the best revenge, right? I gave him a weak smile. Success. He leaned forward, eyes bright. No. The best revenge is becoming so successful they can't ignore you anymore. That made me pause. He was right. For a second the fog lifted. By the way, he added, have you considered my proposal about the Richardson merger? I pulled out my tablet, letting the weight of my family slide to the background. Actually, I've been sketching out an alternate structure. What if we leveraged our smaller assets as a secondary incentive? We spent the next hour deep in strategy the way I liked it, clean, focused, logical. In this space, I wasn't the afterthought, I was the future. That evening, as I drove through the city, headlights and skyscrapers blurring past Jenna's name lit up my phone. You need a plan, she said, skipping any greeting. A plan for what? To show them what they lost when they cast you out. You're not that shy girl anymore, Claire. You've got power now. Use it. I don't know if it's worth it. It is, she said, because you are. Later that night, I sat in my luxury apartment, the one I bought on my own, staring at my laptop screen. Trinity's no Vanessa's email was still open. Her pictures from last year's reunion showed smiles, laughter, and a glaring absence me. But something had shifted. Not sadness, something colder, clearer. Resolve. I opened my browser and pulled up the real estate site I'd been monitoring for months. The beach house, our beach house, had quietly dipped in value during the latest economic hiccup. Maintenance costs had climbed. The taxes were overdue. I knew because I'd done my research. I hovered over the contact agent button, then I clicked. Not revenge, I whispered aloud, just justice, with interest. And in the boardroom the next morning, I stood before directors and analysts with a laser pointer in one hand and my strategy for the Richardson merger glowing behind me on the screen. This isn't just about consolidation, I said. It's about redefinition. They nodded. I had them. This was my arena. And they were about to learn that Claire Morgan was no longer someone you could overlook. Like a Nickery? Tyler sat at the far end of the long conference table, giving me a subtle nod as I wrapped up my final slide. We both knew what was at stake, the hours, the data models, the strategy sessions that bled well into midnight. And now all of it came down to this moment. Mr. Richardson leaned forward, his steely gaze fixed on the numbers projected behind me. His voice, when it came, was low but pointed. "And you're confident in these projections, Ms. Morgan?" I didn't hesitate. I stake my reputation on them, I said, my voice steady. But more than that, I stake the future of both our companies. From the side of the room, Mr. Whitfield Richard cleared his throat and added, "Claire has never given us a reason to doubt her. Her performance speaks louder than any resume." 2 hours later, the meeting concluded with handshakes, signed preliminary agreements, and a round of congratulatory murmurs. It was done. The Richardson merger was officially in motion. As the boardroom emptied, Richard pulled me aside, a proud gleam in his eye. "That was exceptional work," he said, clapping me lightly on the shoulder. "But I have to ask, why didn't you mention the Hong Kong promotion? This deal practically makes it a formality." I hesitated, my smile faltering just slightly. The position head of international operations was everything I'd worked for. But the timing aligned almost perfectly with the family reunion. "I'm still weighing the options," I replied carefully. Back at my desk, Tyler was already waiting, perched on the edge with a smug look and a coffee in hand. "Okay," he said. "Spill. You just nailed the most critical pitch of your career and you're hesitating, Claire. What's holding you back?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. "Vanessa." I let it go to voicemail. "That's what's holding her back," Jenna announced as she breezed into the room, 2 lunch bags in hand. Family drama right on schedule. "I thought we were meeting at the cafe," I said, relieved by the interruption. "Changed my mind. I wanted to see the post-pitch glow in person," she said, handing out sandwiches before narrowing her eyes at me. "So, Hong Kong, huh?" "News travels fast," I muttered. "In this case, good news should travel even faster." Tyler grinned. "Claire, you can't be thinking of skipping this over a beach house brunch and passive-aggressive family politics." My phone buzzed again, this time a text from Vanessa. "Mom's wondering if you got the reunion email. Please respond soon." Jenna snatched the phone before I could react. "Oh no." "Not this time," she said, waving it just out of my reach. "You know what this is? This is them realizing they can't pretend you don't exist anymore." "Give me back my phone," I said, reaching. "Not until you promise to stop letting people who never showed up for you have a say in what you do with your life," she said. "I'm not," I started, but Tyler cut me off. "Claire, remember the charity gala last month? You owned that room? CEOs were lining up just to talk to you. That's the woman you are, not the girl they made you feel like." My phone buzzed a third time. Bryce. "Hey sis, long time, want to catch up?" "Wow, suddenly I'm popular," I said flatly. "Because you're finally too successful to ignore?" Jenna smirked. "Now back to Hong Kong. I'm still thinking about the timing I started." "It's perfect," Tyler jumped in. "Go close deals while they play charades at their rustic little family reunion." Just then Richard reappeared in my doorway. "Claire, Mr. Richardson wants to have dinner tonight to go over implementation strategy." I stood smoothing my blazer. "Text me the time and location." As he walked off, Jenna raised an eyebrow. "Look at you. Power moves only." "It's just dinner," I said, though. I couldn't stop the smile forming. "Dinner with one of the most powerful men in our industry," Tyler added. "While your family still thinks you're some mid-level analyst pushing paper," Jenna said, reading over my shoulder as my phone lit up again. This time it was Mom. "Claire, dear, please call. There are important family matters to discuss." Jenna scoffed. "Important like what? Trying to spin a new excuse for why they accidentally left you out again." I picked up my presentation folder, already mentally shifting gears toward dinner strategy. They can keep their excuses. I've got a future to build. Atta girl. Tyler grinned. By the way, have you made an offer yet on that house? Tomorrow, I said, checking my compact in the mirror. The agent says I'm the only serious buyer. Perfect timing, Jenna sang, right before they start planning this year's grand reunion. As I headed out, I felt lighter than I had in months. They may have worked hard to make me feel small, but here in this world I was anything but. Tyler called out, "Don't forget who you are in there. Show them Claire Morgan unfiltered." "Oh, I will," I murmured, smiling to myself as I walked out. Are... Congratulations, Ms. Morgan, the real estate agent said the next morning, sliding a small set of silver keys across the table. I stared at them for a long second before picking them up. They were heavier than I expected, weighted not just by metal but by everything they represented. Past, present, control. "I can't believe you actually did it," Jenna whispered beside me, her grip tightening on my arm. The agent smiled politely. "Paperwork will be finalized by end of day. Given the circumstances, I'd say this is an exceptionally strategic acquisition." Outside the building, sunlight gleamed off the polished keys in my hand. They left faint indentations in my palm, a perfect imprint of everything I'd fought for. My phone rang. "Tell me you closed the deal," Richard said without preamble. "Signed and sealed. Then you'll want to know the Hong Kong promotion's yours. Full board approval came through this morning." I stopped in my tracks. Already I thought the vote wasn't until next quarter. "You closed Richardson. You turned doubters into believers. And he wants you to lead the transition team." Jenna overheard. Her eyes went wide with delight. "This is insane," she whispered. "You own their sacred beach house, and you're about to run international operations." Then came the text from Vanessa family meeting this weekend. "Mom says you need to be there. Please come." Oh my God, Jenna howled with laughter. "They have no idea you're holding the keys to their reunion venue." "Neither does the agent," I reminded her. "I made the purchase through my holding company." "Savage. I love it," she said, linking her arm with mine as we made our way to the car. "What's the plan?" she asked. Before I could answer, Tyler called. "Richard just told me the news, both pieces. You're taking Hong Kong, right?" "I haven't decided." "What's there to decide? You get to build your empire and let them see exactly who you became without them." Jenna leaned into the call, and Claire just got summoned to the family meeting. Timing couldn't be better. "Are you going?" Tyler asked. I smiled, taking the turn onto the coastal road. "Actually, yes. I think it's time they met the new owner." The drive felt different now. The ocean peeking through the trees, the curves of the road, they didn't just lead to memories anymore. They led to ownership. I parked in front of the Victorian house, blue and white, just like I remembered, though now it looked more like a trophy than a relic. Jenna whistled low. "No wonder they're so attached to this place." I unlocked the door and stepped into a house scented with salt air and echoes of summers past. Only this time, victory scented the air, too. My phone rang. "Mom." "Claire, are you coming this weekend?" Vanessa said she texted. "I'm actually at the beach house right now," I said, brushing my fingers along the old wooden banister. Silence. "What, how?" "You should ask your realtor," I said lightly. "Anyway, see you soon." I ended the call before she could respond. Jenna was already recording. That was perfect. "Send that to Tyler," she said gleefully. I opened the French doors to the deck, breathing in the view that used to belong to all of us. Now, it was mine alone. "You know, I said they always told me I didn't understand tradition, but I'm the one who saved it." Jenna smirked. "Sometimes the best revenge isn't burning it all down." I nodded, eyes on the horizon. It's owning it and rewriting the rules. My phone buzzed. Vanessa, Bryce, Mom, one after another. I didn't open any of them. Tyler's voice buzzed through the speaker. "So, boss, what's next?" I smiled, fingers tapping over my laptop keyboard. Now we plan a reunion they'll never forget." Jenna grinned. "Want company?" "No," I said, staring at the ocean. "This part I need to do alone, but first I've got a promotion letter to accept." I took a deep breath of sea air, my sea air. The little girl who used to hide in this house's corners, she was gone. In the place of the girl they once overlooked, now stood a woman they couldn't afford to ignore. A woman they'd never seen coming and now couldn't unsee. The sudden slam of car doors outside jolted me from my spreadsheet. I'd been working all morning reviewing merger documentation with a view of the ocean spilling through my office window. The breeze was salt, sweet, and clean, the soundtrack of quiet success. Then came the voices, familiar, too familiar. "Mom, I'm telling you, Claire was acting weird on the phone." Vanessa's voice rang out, that tight-lipped tone she used when things didn't go as planned. "She's always weird," Bryce responded, not missing a beat. "Remember last Christmas when she brought her assistant to dinner instead of a date?" I shut the laptop slowly, fingers hovering for a moment over the touchpad. The family meeting wasn't scheduled until tomorrow. They were early. I rose from my chair, glancing down at the outfit I'd picked with precision navy silk blouse, tailored trousers, Louboutins, clicking softly on the hardwood as I walked to the window. Through the curtains, I watched them unload their bags like they still owned the place. Only they didn't. Not anymore. My phone buzzed. Tyler. They're here early. Wish me luck. He texted back in under 2 seconds. Unleash hell. From downstairs came the unmistakable sound of keys fumbling at the front door, then a pause. Confused murmurs. Mom, it's not opening, Vanessa called out. That's not possible. I just had it rekeyed last month, Elaine said, her tone clipped and rising. I took a slow, deliberate breath and descended the staircase like I was preparing for a board presentation. Every click of my heels on the wood echoed like a countdown. When I opened the door, their expressions were delicious. Shock, confusion, a dawning dread. Looking for something, I asked sweetly. Elaine's hand went straight to her chest. Claire, what are you doing here? How did you... I live here, I said, plainly stepping aside. Come in. My house is your house. Quite literally. They stood there frozen. Vanessa opened and closed her mouth like she couldn't find the right line in the script. Bryce let his duffel bag hit the ground with a thud. What do you mean you live here? He finally managed. I turned and headed toward the kitchen, already knowing they'd follow me, unable to resist the pull of unraveling what they didn't yet understand. Coffee, I asked. I just brewed a fresh pot. Colombian. Imported. I remember you like that roast, Mom. Elaine walked in like she was stepping into a stranger's home, her gaze flicking across the familiar furniture that now felt different, because it was. Claire, Vanessa snapped, her voice laced with that patronizing big sister authority I knew too well. What is going on? I poured myself a cup, savoring the moment. I thought the meeting was tomorrow. Did the memo change? Though I suppose I wouldn't know, since I'm rarely looped in. Bryce's patience snapped. Cut the crap. How did you get into the house? This is our family home. Actually, I said, pulling out my phone and swiping to the saved PDF. It's my house now, officially. Transferred 2 weeks ago. Would you like to see the deed? Elaine sank into a chair, her knees visibly shaking. No, that's not possible. We would have known. Would you? I said calmly, taking a slow sip. When was the last time any of you asked what I've been doing with my life? I let the question hang. Then, as they stood in stunned silence, I offered again. Coffee, know your loss. It's exquisite. Vanessa grabbed my phone, scrolling through the document. This can't be real. How could you possibly afford this? I smiled and let the venom coat my voice with sugar. The same way I afford my penthouse in Manhattan, my condo in Aspen, my Bentley. You know work. That little thing none of you thought I'd ever figure out. You're what? Bryce sputtered. A car door slammed outside. Then, why is everyone standing around? These bags aren't going to carry themselves. Dad's voice boomed from the driveway. I called back in the kitchen, Dad. Let me give you a hand. He stepped through the door, arms full of grocery bags, then stopped dead in the threshold. Claire. What the hell is going on? Family meeting came early, I said smoothly, taking the bags and setting them on the counter. Next time you might want to check with me before buying food for someone else's fridge. Your fridge? He echoed, his brow furrowing. Yes, my house. We should talk. Come on, let's sit down. You all look like you've seen a ghost. I led them to the dining room, the one where they'd eaten meal after meal without me. I took the head of the table, Dad's old seat. A quiet statement, but clear. So I said, resting my hands on the polished wood, about this year's reunion. You can't just buy our family home, Vanessa burst out. This is tradition. Traditions, I said, inspecting my manicure, only matter if the people upholding them actually include everyone. Where was your tradition when the bank issued foreclosure warnings? Elaine flinched. How did you even know about that? I know everything, Mom, I said without raising my voice. Missed payments, overdue taxes, hidden liens. I knew because, unlike some people, I do my homework before I invest in something. Especially something that used to matter. My phone buzzed. Jenna. Need backup, I replied. Nope. Operation Karma fully operational. I looked up at them all seated, all speechless. Now, I said, folding my hands. About those reunion plans. I was thinking this year could use a little refresh. I gestured toward the ocean view that stretched beyond the windows. New house, new rules. Their expressions watching the realization hit were better than any quarterly win I'd ever delivered. You could have told us, Vanessa whispered, about your job, your success, all of it. Could I? I raised a brow. When exactly? During those family holidays I wasn't invited to, or the birthdays I celebrated alone. Dad cleared his throat. Now, Claire, that's not fair. Fair, I laughed. Not cruelly, but sharply enough to make Elaine recoil. Let's do fair, Dad. Remember my college graduation, the one you all missed because Bryce had a soccer game. That was different, Mom started. He was up for a scholarship, Dad added. Which he didn't get, I finished flatly. Meanwhile, I was accepting my MBA with honors. Not that anyone noticed, not that anyone asked. My phone buzzed again. Richard, Hong Kong announcement goes live tomorrow. Want me to hold off? Perfect timing. Launch. I tapped send just as Bryce leaned forward. Wait, he said, you're moving to Hong Kong? I leaned back in my chair, smiled softly, and said, let's just say the view over there is even better than this one. So what now? Bryce said, his tone sharpening with something between defensiveness and desperation. You're just going to dangle this over us, make us beg to use our own family home. I rose slowly, letting my coffee cool on the counter as I walked toward the newly renovated kitchen, the kitchen that used to leak from the ceiling every time it rained. Your family home, I echoed, arching an eyebrow. Come here. Let me show you what your precious legacy looked like the day I signed the papers. I opened the folder I'd placed on the Marble Island cream linen, professionally labeled the way I'd present an executive portfolio. Inside were photos, peeling paint, exposed wires, wood rot water damage that had warped the floorboards and threatened the entire foundation. This, I said, spreading the images out in front of them, was what I inherited. 60,000 just to make it livable. Another 100,000 to restore it to what you see now. Where was your family pride when the roof caved in, the plumbing failed, and the bank was 2 weeks from taking it all? Vanessa picked up a photo of the porch, the one we used to sit on during summer nights, now pristine and solid, but once a hazard. Her face drained of color. I didn't know it was this bad, she whispered. No one did, I said, matter of fact, because none of you bothered to ask. You just assumed, like always, that someone else would handle it. The same way you assumed I'd never be anything more than a disappointment. Dad stood abruptly. His voice was tight. That's enough. I met his gaze evenly. Is it? I asked. Because from where I'm standing, I've spent the last 20 years as your footnote, your shadow, the daughter you never introduced with pride. My phone buzzed again. A news alert lit up the screen. Claire Morgan named youngest VP of International Operations in Whitfield Group history. Mom's phone pinged almost simultaneously. I watched as her eyes widened, scanning the headline. Her voice trembled. Claire, you're moving to Hong Kong. Among other things, I said, pouring myself another cup of coffee. I could feel the shift in the room, the weight of realization pressing in. Vanessa leaned over Mom's shoulder, reading aloud, youngest executive in company history. Merger strategy projected to triple global market share. Bryce's mouth moved, trying to keep up. That's impossible. You're just Claire, I finished for him softly. Funny how that works. The daughter you never saw coming now owns your sacred beach house and steers an empire across 3 continents. Dad slowly sank back into his seat like his bones had grown too heavy. Why didn't you tell us? I tried, I said, my voice calm but firm. Every dinner where I brought up work, you steered the conversation back to Vanessa's twins or Bryce's newest side hustle. Every promotion I earned met with nods and quick subject changes. My phone buzzed again. Tyler, stocks up 12% on the merger news. You're trending on LinkedIn. Mom hadn't taken her eyes off her phone. Claire, these numbers. This is more than we ever imagined. Yes, I said, sipping slowly. And it's just the beginning. There was a long pause before Vanessa asked, almost in a whisper, so, what now? About the reunion. About everything. I walked toward the window, the sunlight spilling across the hardwood floors and painting gold across the room I now owned in every sense. Now, I said, we do things differently. The reunion will go on, I continued, turning to face them. But under new management. Meaning, Bryce challenged. Meaning, I said evenly, I've already booked the top floor at the Four Seasons. You'll have ocean views, catered meals, private suites, the beach house. I smiled slightly. Needs time to rest, to breathe, to reflect. You're kicking us out, Mom asked, her voice cracking. No, Mom, I replied. I'm offering you something better. A taste of what exclusion feels like, except mine comes with concierge service and imported linens. Dad stood again, more slowly this time. We deserve that, he said quietly. All of it. But Claire, is this really what you want? What I want, I repeated, letting the words settle. I want 20 years of missed birthdays. I want a seat at the table I was always left out of. I want you to stop pretending like you didn't make me feel invisible. I slid a stack of printed hotel reservations across the table, the gold foil logo gleaming under the pendant light. But since I can't have that, I said I'll settle for watching you realize everything you lost when you chose to overlook me. Vanessa picked up one of the reservations, her mouth falling open. This This suite alone costs less than an hour of my current salary, I said, cutting her off. Think of it as a parting gift, something to remember me by when I'm in Hong Kong. Mom looked up at me, her eyes glassy. How long will you be gone? I looked around the house, my house. The place that once held only pain, now held power. Long enough, I said softly. Long enough for you to understand what being left out really feels like. There was nothing left to say, just silence, thick, heavy silence that didn't belong to me anymore. The Four Seasons lobby shimmered beneath crystal chandeliers as my family trickled in for their luxury exile. I stood back watching as Vanessa tried to wrangle her kids. Bryce fumbled with his cufflinks, and my mother spoke too quickly to the concierge. Your car is ready, Ms. Morgan, the valet said, giving me a subtle nod as he gestured toward the sleek black Bentley waiting outside. I could feel Mom's eyes on me before she said a word. Claire, she called, catching up. Please, we need to talk. Really talk. I have a meeting, I said, checking my watch. Merger schedules don't pause for emotional catch-ups. She reached out an unfamiliar gesture and touched my arm gently. Just coffee. 20 minutes. Please. I stared at her hand, then her face. I saw the lines around her eyes, the ones formed from years of judgment and distance. I nodded once. 15 minutes. Rooftop lounge. She fidgeted with her coffee cup while I responded to emails about Hong Kong. Finally, she broke the silence. I didn't realize you were so accomplished. I set my phone down. Of course you didn't. You never asked. She opened her mouth, then closed it. After you left law school? I didn't drop out, I said calmly. I got a full scholarship to Harvard Business, which you'd know, if you'd read a single one of my letters. Your father and I, she began, we just wanted stability for you. Something familiar. Like Vanessa's law career she never started. Or Bryce's businesses you keep bailing out. The lounge doors opened and Jenna stepped in, hesitating at the sight of us. Should I come back? No, I said, stay. Mom was just explaining why I was never enough. Mrs. Morgan, Jenna said with a cool nod. Been a long time. Not that you ever remembered me. I only spent every other Christmas with your daughter while you hosted brunches at Vanessa's. Mom flushed. Jenna, of course, I remember. Save it, Jenna said, sliding into the seat beside me. I'm here for the Hong Kong transition meeting. You know, for the promotion you ignored. My phone buzzed. Vanessa, Mom looks upset. Everything okay? I typed back, she's fine. Just learning. Claire, Mom said, voice barely a whisper. Were we really that awful? Jenna scoffed, but I raised a hand. Not awful, just indifferent. And sometimes that's worse. We can change, Mom said, now that we know. Now that I'm successful, I interrupted. Now that you've read the headlines and Googled my title, that's not change, Mom. That's regret. That's just you rewriting history because I shattered your expectations. The door opened once more, and this time it was Dad. He glanced around the room with furrowed brows. Elaine's been gone a while, he muttered. Come join us, I said coolly, gesturing to an open seat. We're having a very transparent discussion about generational missteps. He lowered himself into the chair with a weight that felt symbolic. Claire, about the beach house. Already handled, I said briskly. Back taxes paid, liens cleared, foundation damage, electrical, plumbing, and cosmetic work, all fully renovated. You're welcome. That's not what I meant, he began. It never is, I replied tightly, the corner of my mouth curving in a smile that didn't reach my eyes. Savannah opened her laptop beside me. Claire, we need to finalize your housing preference for Hong Kong. The firm sent 3 options. Penthouse at Victoria Harbor, I replied without looking. I already chose. Mom's porcelain coffee cup clattered against the saucer. Penthouse. Savannah offered a saccharine smile. What did you think, that an international VP would be roughing it in a studio? My phone vibrated. A text from Bryce family dinner tonight. My treat. Declined, I replied. Board dinner at Le Jardin, 8 p.m. Dad leaned forward, a rare earnestness in his voice. Claire, we know we made mistakes, but buying the house jetting off to Hong Kong is freezing us out, really your answer. I stood brushing invisible lint from my skirt. This house isn't about revenge. It's about reclaiming space I was never given permission to own. As for Hong Kong, I smiled sharp and sure. That's just good business. Mom's voice cracked. When will we see you again? Holidays, maybe, if I'm not buried under a regional expansion plan. Savannah stood too practically glowing with pride. Don't worry, Mrs. Morgan. I'm sure Vanessa will keep you in the loop like always. As we turned to leave, I heard the stifled sound of Mom crying. A part of me twitched that old reflex to comfort, to minimize. But it passed. You okay? Savannah asked as the elevator doors closed behind us. I adjusted my blazer, checking my reflection in the gold-trimmed mirror. Never better. Ready for that board dinner? Born ready, she smirked. Though I have to ask, making them stay at the hotel the entire reunion week cold. I smiled. Oh, that was just the preview. Wait till Christmas. Au fairyama. The Four Seasons ballroom was nothing short of theatrical. Crystal chandeliers shimmered overhead, the string quartet played Vivaldi, and my family sat at the center table in clothes borrowed from the concierge's emergency wardrobe collection. Their discomfort was palpable, delicious. Is all this really necessary? Bryce tugged at his too-tight collar. You mean the award-winning chef, the oceanfront balcony, or the champagne fountain? I asked, raising my glass. Consider it back pay for all those reunions I wasn't invited to. Vanessa's husband let out a low whistle as servers placed trays of caviar and amuse-bouches before us. Is this real beluga? Only the best, I replied, though I'm sure it's no match for the deli trays from your garage potlucks. Mom pushed food around her plate, her appetite clearly absent. Claire, can we speak privately? I led her to the balcony where the ocean breeze softened the tension but not the truth. This is cruel, she whispered. Luxury is cruel, or is it cruel that the daughter you overlooked grew into someone you now have to acknowledge? You know what I mean, she said, eyes glassy. Flaunting all this, it's painful. Like Trinity's law school graduation party, or Bryce's engagement weekend in the Hamptons, the ones I wasn't invited to. She blinked. We were wrong. Yes, I said, voice flat. But what I want isn't your apology. It's for you to understand every ignored call, every deflected question, every milestone met with silence. It all led to this. The balcony door opened and Lance stepped out, nodding. Claire, Mrs. Morgan. Mom stiffened. You're the one from the article. Actually, he smiled as of next quarter. Claire and I will be equals. Possibly not for long, though her projections are outpacing mine. I watched her try to process the scope of what that meant. The Hong Kong position, she murmured. It's that big. It covers half of Asia, I said simply. My signing bonus alone could restore this entire hotel. Lance checked his watch. Tokyo office is expecting us. Ready? Always. I turned to Mom. Enjoy dessert. The gold leaf is imported. As we walked back inside, Lance leaned close. You weren't kidding about brutal. I never do. I worry. Back in the ballroom, Tyler arrived like a scene stealer with a bundle of newspapers tucked under his arm. Hot off the press Wall Street Journal business cover. Claire Morgan, rising titan. He passed out copies like party favors. Dad's hands trembled as he held his. Vanessa read aloud, youngest exec in firm history, projected 300% growth. Bryce stood abruptly. Claire, could I talk to you about a venture Sorry, Bri, I said, checking my phone. My capital's fully allocated, but I hear the firm has great internship programs. The main course arrived, Wagyu beef with truffle glaze. My family chewed in stunned silence. The concierge appeared at my side. Your car is waiting for the Tokyo call, Ms. Morgan. Thank you, James. I handed him a tip. Make sure my family is well accommodated. He nodded. Of course. As I reached for my briefcase, Mom touched my arm, a gesture hesitant and foreign. Claire, when will you be back from Hong Kong? I turned, eyes sweeping over the ballroom, pausing on the crystal centerpieces, the untouched desserts, the slack-jawed expressions of my family. This world-refined earned mind stood in sharp contrast to the quiet corners they used to relegate me to. Honestly, I don't know, I said. But don't worry, I'll send photos, just like you did all those years with your reunion updates. As I walked toward the exit, I heard Tyler's voice rising behind me. Oh, and wait until you hear about her new penthouse in Victoria Harbor. The rhythm of my heels against the marble floor echoed through the grand lobby like a closing statement. Each step took me further from a family who once called me a disappointment and closer to the empire I'd built from the foundation of their doubt. Let them savor the Wagyu, I thought, and let every bite remind them of the table they once refused me a seat at. Wow, tear. Morning sunlight poured through the tall windows of the beach house, casting golden reflections across the polished floors as I packed the last of my things. My flight to Hong Kong was hours away. Savannah sat cross-legged on my bed, flipping through a stack of old photographs I'd pulled from the attic the night before. Look at this one, she said, holding up a faded snapshot. Your 10th birthday. You're the only one looking at the camera. Everyone else is too busy fussing over Vanessa's new puppy. A knock at the door interrupted us. Mom stood there looking smaller than I remembered, holding a small wooden box. Can I come in? She asked quietly. I nodded, folding the last of my blouses into my suitcase. She sat on the edge of the bed, turning the box in her hands like it held something fragile. I found this in the attic, she said. It's everything I saved from you. Everything I never had the courage to admit I kept. She opened the lid. Inside were honor roll ribbons, my first science fair medal, the program from my MBA graduation they never attended. You kept these, I whispered. Every single one, she said. I told myself I was being practical, not encouraging pipe dreams. But really, I was scared. Scared of what? That you'd succeed, she admitted, voice trembling. That you'd leave this small-town life behind and never look back. And I was right. She pulled out a copy of a business magazine, last year's 30 under 40 issue. My name and face smiled from the glossy cover. And you did. Savannah stood, offering space. I can give you two a moment. No, I said, catching her wrist. You stay. You've been more family to me than most of them ever tried to be. My phone buzzed. Vanessa, on the beach. Can we talk? Send her up, I texted back. A few minutes later, Vanessa stepped in, followed by Bryce and Dad. The room suddenly felt smaller. Bryce carried a manila envelope. I nodded at it. What's that? Investment ideas, he said. But not for me, for the house. We all contributed if you'll let us. I don't need your money. We know, Dad said, stepping forward. But we'd like to invest in something we should have valued years ago, us. Pretty words, I said. Then let our actions speak, Vanessa replied. I postponed my law partnership. Taking a break, I was thinking, maybe I'd visit you in Hong Kong, get to know the sister I never really tried to understand. I've enrolled in online business courses, Bryce added. I'd love if you'd mentor me, for real this time. Mom opened the wooden box again and held out a small key. We don't expect forgiveness, she said. But maybe we can start building something better. What's this for? The front door, she said softly. I held on to it all these years, thinking it still meant something. But you reminded us what really matters. It's not keys or houses or holidays. It's who we choose to become. Savannah squeezed my hand as I took the key. I'm still going, I said. We know, they replied almost in unison. And I'm still angry. You should be, Dad said. This doesn't fix everything, Mom added. But it could be a beginning, I said. I walked to the window, looking out over the ocean. My ocean now. Behind me, I heard the shuffle of Bryce's envelope, the nervous exhale of Vanessa, and the click of Mom's box closing. The reunion, I said at last, will rotate between here and Hong Kong. You'll all need passports. A beat, then laughter. Vanessa wiped her eyes. Really, I said. But not because you earned it. Because I choose it. There's a difference. Savannah lit up. Does this mean I get to plan the Hong Kong leg because I've got ideas? You'll all need to start learning Mandarin, I added. And business etiquette. And how to conduct yourself in a boardroom. Whatever it takes, Bryce said, and for once I believed him. My phone buzzed. Lance Carr's here. That's my cue. I picked up my carry-on. Claire, Mom said, rising. Thank you. Not for the forgiveness we don't deserve, but for the chance we didn't earn. I looked at them, still flawed, still learning, but trying. Trying was enough for now. Don't waste it. As I walked toward the waiting car, I heard them behind me. Not chasing, but accompanying. Not dragging me back, but walking forward beside me. Different, but possible. Hong Kong won't know what hit it, Savannah whispered, wrapping me in one last hug. I smiled, thinking of the skyline, the glass tower that would hold my new office, the conference rooms where I'd lead global decisions. Neither will they, I said. And with that, I left the beach house behind, not a relic, but a rebirth. Not perfect, but possible.